This is your video for our freestanding box. You can make blocks out of whatever designs you choose. We did ours out of Christmas designs, but we also have a spring sample for you to see. The basic premise is you need to hoop your wash away stabilizer, and don't forget to use our conservation method where you keep it on the roll before you trim it away. That'll save you that 4 or 5 inches every time. You sew your very first step, which is merely a placement. Then you're going to take and place your batting so that it completely covers that stitched line in the first step. And you're going to stitch step 2. Step 2 is going to stitch your batting in place. And certainly keep your fingers in there. Don't sew them, but make sure you keep that batting flat so it doesn't get caught around the foot or get a wrinkle in it. And it's going to go twice around your batting. It's going to come all the way around. And then it's going to turn and come back. And you create all 4 of the outside blocks exactly this way, plus you create a bottom piece exactly this way, all done the same way. Once this batting is stitched down, the machine will stop. You're going to trim away all of the excess batting from around the outside. If you need to, don't be afraid to pull your hoop off so that you can get in there and trim all that excess batting pretty close to the stitching line, but don't get too close or you'll actually cut the stitches, and we don't want to do that. Now that our batting is trimmed away, you're going to take your fabric for your bottom piece and you're just going to lay it over the top. You want it to extend at least 1/2 inch past the batting on all 4 sides. And then stitch your next step, which will attach your batting or your top fabric to your batting. Again, don't be afraid to put your fingers around there or hands in there to make sure that that fabric stays flat. Because this is the bottom of your fabric bowl, we're not going to do a design on this piece. You certainly can if you want to, but the bottom does not need a design. When this is done stitching, you'll remove it from the hoop. You will cut this block away from the stabilizer. On all of your blocks, the blocks for the outside of your box as well as the bottom, you're going to take a ruler and you're going to create 1/2 inch seam allowances from this last stitched line. So a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So your blocks will look like this. You're then going to take your Timtex. Your Timtex is fusible on one side, and you're going to iron pieces of your Timtex to all 5 of your blocks. The 4 blocks that make the outside of the box and the 1 block that makes the bottom of the box. Your Timtex will be slightly smaller than the outside stitched line. It's about the size of your batting. We do not want that Timtex to get caught in the seam allowance. So you'd rather have it a little bit smaller rather than too big. And go iron or fuse that in place on all 5 of your blocks. The next step is to sew all 4 of your outsides together. Make one long strip and then put the raw edges together. Pin them in place, and you're going to make a tube. The thing that's important with this step is that when you sew, your stitching line is right in between these 2 lines. So your sewing line is going to go right in between there. And you've now made a tube. You want to open it up and look at it and make sure that you can't see any of the embroidered stitching inside there. Okay? Now, here's the important thing. This is called a Y seam. So there'll be Timtex ironed on to all 4 of the box outside pieces. There'll be Timtex ironed on to the piece that makes up your bottom. And now press these seams open. You want them pressed open and flat. Take your bottom piece and between one side of the top, match this raw edge to the seam allowance back there. So match all those raw edges and do the same thing on this side. Match all those raw edges. And normally when you sew, you would sew all the way across here. You don't want to do that. You want to sew from right there, right where that seam is, and you can feel it with your fingers. You want to sew from there to there, and you want to stop right there. You don't want to go past there. So you want to start right there and you want to go to there. You don't want to catch any of these seam allowances in this seam. So one side is now stitched. Now do the same thing to the next side. Take and put the raw edges together. So from there to there and there to there. So again, you're going to sew from this corner to this corner. You're not going to go out here into the seam allowance, just from corner to corner. So you're going to do that on all four sides. Each time you only care about that one side and sewing from corner to corner. Once you have all four sides stitched, you can flip it right sides out. And if you look, sure enough, you'll have a nice corner to your box. Done. You're going to make your lining exactly the same way, except your lining won't have any batting or any stabilizer or any Timtex. But you're going to make your lining the same way, adding the bottom to it the same way. You're then going to turn your lining with the good side here, so it's going to go wrong sides together with your outside box. Put the two together. You can add a handle at this point, you'd add binding at this point, and you would couch on your trim if you have trim at this point. And that's it. You made a box.